Anyone who's played a card game tournament knows that reporting your matches has to be one of the easiest things to do in the game. For those of you guys who've been playing the Pokemon trading card game, we've been using paper reporting for quite a long time, and today I wanted to bring up a heated discussion that's been happening on Twitter, something that I might have sparked a little bit of: online match slip, or online app-based reporting. Now, those of you who play other card games, please weigh in with your input here, because Bandai games I know specifically use match-based reporting or app-based reporting, and so do Lorcana, stuff like that. So, let me know how it goes. So recently, a good friend of ours, Cash, put out a video about the TPC circuit where they report everything on the app. Many people have been watching Japanese streams and stuff in general, been like, hey, why do players immediately pull out their phones and report? That's because there's app-based reporting. Now, this is similar to a transition we made when we went from paper pairings to online pairings, and people had some initial backlash as well. So I want to know, what are your thoughts on these things in general? So let's talk about it. So Cash kind of showed us here in this video where players will pull up their own pairings. You can see who you played against, win, tie, loss, whatever. You put that in, you register it, and then I think your opponent gets an option at this point to either accept or decline it. And then if there's a declination, I think you both have to go up to the Hive, or one person will go up to the Hive, or whatever exists. In general. So and this has worked in Japan, by the way, so there's locals every single place in Japan, every single local system uses it. That includes all the way out to the boonies, every single shop, every single place. And then in all these other TPC regions, and Bandai games specifically also use this. Every single local I go to for One Piece, whatever like that, they all use these app-based reporting. Biggest thing I saw in the comments, I think, was about children. Don't really know how we'd handle that one. I think most kids these days do have phones. Don't know why they'd be there alone without a phone is the biggest thing. If there's a parent there, I'm sure they could report it for them. But worst case, this Hive still exists. The Hive does not go away. The match-based reporting still is there. You can go up there and talk to them, kind of figure it out as well. It's like going to a League Cup and being like, hey, I won this round. Now, I think this is the future of the Pokemon TCG, because our tournaments are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, best of 3 is the reason that most rounds do go longer, and we have those in-between round talks, kind of extensions. The +3 takes quite a long time. These regions that play with these app-based reporting, a lot of them have BO1, and they don't really have any additional time rules. It's kind of just hey, time happened, everyone finishes their turn, let's go next, unless, I think One Piece has the 5-minute overtime, but it's timed overtime. In Pokemon, we have untimed overtime, just turns, which takes quite a long time, specifically. And so in general, this could be something that just expedites the process of just flowing through tournaments as we get to bigger and bigger and bigger events. We're seeing for the first time that we're hitting almost a 4,000 person international coming up here in Europe. We have 4,100 players registered for an international tournament, which we've never seen the likes of. In Japan, they're hitting 5,000 master-only tournaments, which is something that I think we're getting closer and closer to hitting in the West. Now, when that happens, we have to figure out a way to efficiently start moving through the tournament, because a lot of players, match slip losses will happen, and it kind of gets awkward. One of the arguments I saw in my comments was that imagine you have to select a win in front of your opponent and show it to them. What's the difference between doing that in the app and asking your opponent to sign the match slip on the spot? It's the same thing. In fact, it just eliminates a little bit more of the awkwardness or the conversation, where you're just you report in the app, your opponent reports in the app, you just either shake hands or nod or whatever and move on. Not everyone wants to have a conversation after a game. I understand that. Same with the match slip. You sign your side, you hand it over to your opponent, they sign their side, you hand it, take it back. It's the exact same level of interaction that you would have regardless. So let's go through kind of a little bit of the comments and see how we would implement this in a better way. I think there are apps and there are games that have done this, so we can very easily emulate the system. In the comments, Arcanine creators Carlos and Dana Perot spoke specifically that they use this for the Professor Cup, or a model of this for the Professor Cup. So it's being tested in some capacity for the West for smaller scale tournaments. Now, how will this translate to bigger tournaments? Obviously, we need to do a couple more tests, make sure everything runs as we expect it before we take something to the big stage and it breaks, obviously. If it does break, that's not good. So we got to make sure it works properly. So we see that there's misreporting and stuff like that. Dominic brings this great point up. With misreporting from the Bandai games that I played, if there's an error, it usually will say there's a discrepancy. It will ask the loser or whoever, the first person will report a result, and the second person has to accept the result. And if they don't accept the result, it'll call both players up to the Hive or the situation desk, and both players will come up, they'll have a conversation, and from there it's the same as a he said she said situation with match slips. Either you resolve it in a proper manner, figure out who the winner is, or whatever the following things are in general. So yeah, Bushiroad, Bandai, everyone uses these for their games. I think I talked about it in my comments. Someone brought up Jeremy brought up Wi-Fi reception, but like if this can work in the most like obscure local places, and the fact that One Piece has gone to Peoria multiple times, stuff like that, like there are stopgaps for it. You can still go to the Hive and report, like, or you can ask your opponent to report for you while you're doing it in the app, and you can accept your result when you go upstairs, walk outside, something. Like, the Wi-Fi is not a reasonable excuse, and Signal is not a reasonable excuse. 5G is becoming more widely available in the States, in the West in general. This match-based online reporting, app-based reporting, has existed for the last like 5+ years, even in Japan, when they're still using 3G. Like 5G wasn't even a full-on thing yet. So if everyone can do it in a proper manner, it's just not that complicated to do. I think it's just like sometimes you're sure it might take a little bit longer to report, but you have time. And if there are like games that are taking a little bit longer in general, then obviously the Hive will be like, table this, please like report, come up to the Hive, whatever you want to say in general. So I think the Wi-Fi reception excuse is not a valid excuse. I do agree that we have been in some basements during the Pokemon's lifetime. Like one of the Tennessee regionals, we were in a signal-less basement, and Pokemon opted not to pay for any Wi-Fi for competitors. I'm sure that could be remedied pretty easily, where if we ran into a situation like that, Pokemon could very easily purchase Wi-Fi to have for the competitors. Like a specific code gets given out to each individual game, like a VGC code, a TCG code, whatever. So it makes it easier. Like, I mean, VGC already plays on their like online battling. Go already plays online battling, and Unite already does that as well. So like 3 of our major games are already doing this on a Wi-Fi/reception based system. So why are we bitching and moaning about doing it for match slips? Like, all it takes is, let me open my app to find my pairings. Let me go back to the pairings page. Rahul won, opponent lost. Put that in, go next. We are not using any strenuous form of data consumption here. We see here Dana comes in. She is one of the creators and orchestrators of RK9, that they used it for the Professor Cups. And other publisher games have been using it, like she mentioned. So I know the primary example I would use is Bandai games in general. Seniors and juniors here. The phone issue, I do agree, but we can fix that at some point. We can see that Lorcana has used it before as well, another Wi-Fi based system. And then you see other people who have played other games in the circuits, like the TPCI based, like in TPC-based circuits, are saying that's a great system. Bandai, Bushiroad, all these other big developers are already using this. It just makes everything so much easier. Now, if this gets implemented across the board, this can peter down into league cups, league challenges, saves tons of time on printing pairings, slips. The TO just has to push pairings at a certain point. It just pops up your pairing. The app should send out a push notification on your phone. Table, like Rahul Reddy, table 6 against Jeff. I don't know. I just made up a name. Jeff the Shark from Marvel Rebels. So you guys are up against each other. Have a good time. Go. You go to your table. You say, "Hey, are you Jeff?" "Yep." "Cool. Sit down." Same thing, exact same thing as using RK9 for pairings that we already have. It's just transitioning that into something that pushes a push notification, gets the tables moving a little bit smoother. Yeah. So I think this is the future of the Pokemon TCG. This is something that I firmly, strongly believe in. That it should be one of our next steps in improving and optimizing tournaments down the line, whether it be at the local, like whether we start this like testing this at the local scene and expand it up to the regional, international level. I think this is just an incredibly good thing to do. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Parents who have kids, I'd love to hear from you guys, especially because I think that's a perspective that I definitely don't have for juniors and seniors. So that's one perspective I'd definitely like to see and hear, because I don't really understand like the whole dynamics of that as well. But I know that most kids these days do have phones, do have access to like how do they get their pairings right now when they go to tournaments, right? Like, it's the same logic. Like, if you don't have a phone or like a way to get to your pairings, maybe it's like, just go up to the Hive and report there, whatever, etc. So yeah, let me know. I think this is a cool little topic to talk about. I wanted to bring up. Happy New Year, happy holidays to everyone, and then we'll get back to our daily scheduled content in a day or two. So cool. Peace out. Have a good one.